Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Boy oh boy, so much is going on. I think we have to used to it in a way. It's almost you have to choose. Either you follow the news or you completely disconnect with the topics, anything that's going on. However, I don't think you will be able to avoid it, quite frankly speaking, because sooner or later it will come to your door. So guys, today I will start with a short clip that I have posted yesterday on my community page. And this is the moment when Zelensky meets with J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States. And I would like to play it because I would like you to pay attention to the body language, not just to what they are saying, but especially to Zelensky's body language. Maybe I actually should start this video with the news that broke yesterday, and it was right after I posted my video, my yesterday's video. Apparently, Russia sent a drone and attacked the facility, nuclear facility in Chernobyl. How convenient, right, for Zelensky? How convenient. For sure Russia did it. Yep, for sure Russia did it, especially after Trump called Putin and they had about hour and a half long conversation. But then we heard from the schmuck yesterday what he was saying and how firm he is. We will see, because I think he's softer than the noodle that you throw on the wall and then it's just falling down. So let's look at this video first. Then I will take you to short part of the press conference that he was giving in Munich. I think he's still there. This is the Munich Security Conference. Then we will go to the visit of the Secretary of Defense of the United States, Pete Hegseth, who was in Poland yesterday. And there was a press conference between his counterpart, Polish Secretary of Defense, Defense Secretary, our tiger, Winnie the Pooh tiger, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, who has his backpack ready. This is the very same one. Those of you who are following me for a while, you know who I'm referring to. I will play a video with one question asked by one of the journalists to Pete Hegseth, to the Secretary of Defense, about will there be more US troops in Poland, or will US withdraw Polish troops? American troops from the Polish territory. We're going to go to this. Then we have to go to incredible speech that J.D. Vance gave yesterday in Munich again. And many of the European leaders, they are losing their marbles today. Let me just tell you, they are, because the bleep is hitting the fan as we speak. And we will also go to the article from TASS with some very, very interesting numbers that Maria Zakharova is bringing to our awareness. I'm very glad because, I don't know everything, and it's good to know, to learn from my favorite lady about some financial aspect to how Zelensky can sustain his delusion going. So let's start with this clip. Again, I'm sorry if it's not too smooth operation as far as me changing the videos, but I am a one-woman show. I don't have anyone who is over there and I can say, hey, Mike, just, video number 1 or 2. So let me mute myself and we go to that meeting that took place in Munich between J.D. Vance, representatives of US and Zelensky himself.
You do it. Luke, just let me know when you have everybody. Thank you. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're, of course, happy to welcome the Ukrainian delegation led by President Zelensky. We had a number of fruitful conversations, a number of things for us to follow up and work on. And fundamentally, the goal is, as President Trump outlined it, we want the war to come to a close. We want the killing to stop, but we want to achieve a durable, lasting peace, not the kind of peace that's going to have Eastern Europe in conflict just a couple years down the road. So we had a number of good conversations about how we might accomplish that together, and certainly we'll have many more in the days, weeks, and months to come. President Zelensky.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Very briefly, I think Vice President said everything absolutely correct. We are very thankful for American support. President Trump, we have good conversation today. Our first meeting, not last, I'm sure, and really what we need to speak more, to work more, and to prepare the plan how to stop Putin and finish the war. We want peace very much, but we need real security guarantees, and we will continue our meetings and our work, and we will be very happy to see General Kellogg also in Ukraine in this closest time. Thank you, Vice President, for meeting. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all.
Mr. Vice
Take care,
President,
guys.
how does this move forward if Ukraine is not ready to come to the table with Putin? If Ukraine is not ready to speak with Putin at the table, how do you move forward? Will you still negotiate?
Well, look, I think the way that this conversation moves us forward is, first of all, you have great members of the Ukrainian delegation. You have our incredible Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, here. We have General Kellogg. It's important for us to get together and start to have the conversations that are going to be necessary to bring this thing to a close. That's all I'm going to say for now, because I want to preserve the optionality here from the negotiators and our respective teams to bring this thing to a responsible close. Thank you all. Have a
What
good
is
night.
the timeline for this deal? Have you come to a deal?
I actually can't hear you. You all shout at once.
Thank you.
This way.
We are, here we are.
Okay, so here are my thoughts. Isn't it clear, Ukraine, you're no longer my Valentine, as far as St. Valentine's Day goes. But on a serious note, it looks like Rubio's face expression, and I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of Marco Rubio, but you can tell a lot about body language. Rubio's face just says no bullshit, get to the point. JD Vance is like, you're not gonna play us. Kellogg is sitting there wondering if everything what he was doing, apparently, just coming across with his family in Ukraine, in connection with Ukraine, is being now perhaps highlighted because he's sitting at this table, which is a surprise. I don't think he was meant to be there, but he's there, even though he wasn't mentioned, I think, in that post from Trump. And Zelensky is like, I really don't like you, JD Vance. You are like, I don't like you. I actually really don't like you. So this was my interpretation of the body language. And of course, because of the drone situation, Zelensky feels like he's more empowered, which he is completely not. And let me just take you what he said yesterday, as he was in Munich during the press conference. So a short clip from that press conference with him.
But President Zelensky, I mean, what we understood from President Trump is that there'll be no NATO, no US troops, and Trump is happy to carve up land. So again, a reaction to what we've heard this week, and how would you sell it back home? What's been the reaction in Ukraine?
The reaction in Ukraine, on the battlefield. That's what we have to do, or in all our cities when people just work, try to work, try to do business, and not bad, really, and then helps our soldiers. That's the reaction on everything. And of course, when we hear, some not positive messages, of course, it has big influence. The worst thing when you have big influence on moral of the people, because today I think only such things, love to Ukraine, believing and trusting that we will have just peace and will that we will defend our country, and we are right, and it's fair, absolutely. And I think that's things which really hold us. But about the NATO, I mean, that I heard so many times from American side. By the way, Biden's administration and now from President Trump, I heard a lot of messages from them by phone. My first phone call with the President Biden, and my first question, will we be in NATO? He said no. And I said, we will see. And then we had more meetings, more questions, but be very honest, United States, they never saw us in NATO. They just spoke about it. But they really didn't want us in NATO. It's true. I'm not about people, and there are a lot of congressmen, yes, senators, it's true, who've been always in participation with our NATO will, but really on the level of leader of the country, on the level of president, never I heard it, but during my term, I never heard that we will be in NATO. Never. So it's not the question to Trump, to President Trump, with all respect to everybody, that's the question to the policy of the United States or of the White House. This is the policy that Ukraine is not in NATO. But it doesn't mean that we can't change this, because now we see that NATO in Europe consists of strong soldiers, mostly in Ukraine. We are not in NATO, but we really have strong army, which can really make stronger NATO everywhere. And I think this is in both interests to have Ukraine in NATO, and both interests, in interest of Ukraine and in interest of NATO. And that's why when we speak, and we spoke with the President Biden, and we spoke with the President Trump, and especially now with the President Trump, I asked, so, okay, if it's not NATO for today, if it's not NATO, we will ask tomorrow, it doesn't matter. But if we're speaking about today, what alternatives? What the alternatives? I don't know. What I see, if we don't have NATO, real NATO, we will make NATO in Ukraine. It means that we need to increase our soldiers, our army, twice. We have 110 brigades. Russia has 220 brigades, real brigades. So they are 2 times bigger than we for today. Yes, but they're increasing mobilization and training, what they're doing now. NATO, this real brigades in Europe, what can I say? The real brigades in Europe, it's about 82. Today I spoke with senators, 82 brigades, and we have 110. Even together, we are not comparable with Russian army. Even together. So we have increased together. So if we speak security guarantees, we have to find money for a bigger army for Ukraine. And also we have to find possibility how to increase production and increase army in Europe. Who knows?
Okay, I think that's enough from him. You will have the link attached down below in the description box. Watching this, what came to my mind is he one of the most successful cases of MK Ultra or other form of programming Is he one of their biggest achievements as far as that project goes? Or was he really that delusional and he believed that they will never lose this battle and that ultimately he will drag entire NATO and European countries in a full conflict with Russia, and of course they're gonna win? Or I don't know, what is he thinking really? I don't know. I think he's under some form of programming, because to be this delusional and be in the position he is right now and still be talking about requiring more money when he knows he's not gonna get it, I don't know what to say. And again, I'm not a geopolitical or military expert, but I think we've seen a lot in this. So now let me take you to Maria Zakharova, because she is Maria Zakharova and she never goes around the bush. Article from yesterday. Ramstein meeting the worst for Ukraine. That's what she said. So let's read this. Moscow, February 14th. The February 12th meeting of the contact group on arms supplies to Ukraine and the Ramstein format was the worst for Kiev. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova stated. It was the first time when the British Defense Minister led the meeting instead of the Pentagon head. Quoting now Zakharova, in effect, he thereby emphasized his willingness to step into the role of the main conductor of the West's war with Russia by the hands of Ukrainians. However, it seems that Western strategists have significant problems. This shift should be considered simply as an element of a chess maneuver. That's what she said. As Jim Townsend, a former deputy assistant to the US Department of Defense, pointed out in an interview with Politico on February 6, Britain can coordinate assistance to Ukraine, but there will be no funding, which means there will be no substantial aid, he said, without the United States. However, there was talk on the sidelines of Ramstein that Wednesday's meeting turned out to be the worst for Ukraine, Zakharova said. She said that if anyone in the West has at least a drop of pity for Ukraine as a state, for Ukrainians as a people, for the inhabitants of this territory as citizens of Ukraine, they will probably spare them and will not do everything to destroy them all. After all, this is exactly what Zelensky aimed at. Again, with this very Western money, she stated. Quoting more from Maria Zakharova, they promised to allocate $186 million. And this is the British who pledged this aid for Kiev, which is killing its own citizens. This is, of course, a drop in the bucket since it spends over $3 billion every month just to hold the front line. Just do the math. More than $30 billion a year, which is what Ukraine would need, she said. How much money could be used to build factories, schools, and hospitals for the citizens of Ukraine? How much could be invested in new technologies and solving everyday pressing issues, not even in the field of high tech, but simply solving everyday pressing communal problems in Ukraine? How many roads, bridges, and airports could be built? But no. The fate of Ukraine was destined to be different. From the point of view of the West, the fate of Ukrainians was handled differently in the West. Such a great words from Maria Zakharova. And I will attach this as well in the description box, the link to this article. You see, I didn't know this, guys, that Ukraine spends over $3 billion every month just to hold the front line. Isn't it crazy? Yeah. So now what? Now what they're gonna do? And I don't know what to say. Now let's go to Polish Tiger Winnie the Pooh and the Secretary of Defense of United States, Pete Hegseth, who was visiting Poland. And I will mute myself and I will take you to that one question from the journalist. Well, there were 4 questions, but this is the one I've chosen to bring to you today, guys.
Mr. Secretary, would the U.S. consider lowering troops number in Eastern Europe as a part of deal with Russia, or would it consider giving up its permanent military presence in Poland?
Well, I will state definitively, as I did in Brussels, that America is committed to the NATO alliance. Our message has been, and as we discussed, we believe heard loud and clear, that member countries in NATO need to spend more, need to invest more, need to have more skin in the game for their collective defense. That is not just a suggestion from the United States of America, that is a direct request, which we will follow up on as a reflection of their desire and commitment to actually defend their own backyard. That's a serious aspect of NATO becoming a serious alliance in the future. As I mentioned, you can have as many flags as you want, but if you don't have hard power, you're not an actual alliance. And unfortunately, our adversaries look at that and they judge accordingly. Right now on the continent, the American presence is robust, and it has been, and that partnership is real and important. And the troops that we have here in Poland is an investment in that, is a recognition of that. And frankly, the invitation we receive here, if anything, would make me want to welcome more troops to Poland as the Secretary of Defense. That's not a policy statement. That's just how I feel. The welcome is warm. At the same time, our president is in the middle of negotiations, but he has recognized, as have I, that American presence on the continent is important to deter Vladimir Putin and send that signal of solidarity. But I think it's really important what the Deputy Prime Minister said. This is the beginning of negotiations. Nothing should be, I'm not here to set the terms of how my President of the United States will debate this. I'm here to give him my best military advice alongside him of what may or may not be most useful to reach the peaceful end state that we want. From my perspective, the American troop levels on the continent are important. What happens 5 or 10 or 15 years from now is part of a larger discussion that reflects the threat level, America's posture, our needs around the globe, but most significantly, the capability of European countries to step up. And that's why our message is so stark to our European allies. Now is the time to invest, because you can't make an assumption that America's presence will last forever. America has to stare down a lot of threats, to include, as I've mentioned, the communist Chinese. And if that's the case, then countries like Poland and others will continue to step up. But as of today, we are very proud of our partnership in Europe. Thank you.
So let me just tell you, as I heard during this press conference, apparently at this moment, United States has around 8,000 troops in Poland, stationary troops. In my opinion, what I think that if those European countries will not contribute to NATO as Trump requires, 5% of their GDP, I think Poland has made a statement. I'm not sure if at this point they are doing 4.7% of the GDP towards NATO spending. Most of those countries will not be able to match this 5%. And I think what will this ultimately mean? That Trump will decide, as he's doing this lately with every bold decision he's making, that he will withdraw US troops from most, if not all, European countries, unless they have a different plan. And I think that's why Poland is the first country that the Secretary of Defense has visited, because of that contribution and of that plan, whatever plan involves Poland, okay? Because who knows what they are thinking to use Poland for, as they have done many times in the history, as we know. So I will take you now to this remarkable speech from J.D. Vance. And why? Because I think this is the first time I've heard politician who is on the world stage addressing the topics and the issues and the problems that we all have been dealing with, especially you, my audience. You know what I'm talking about: the freedom of speech, many other things regarding the choice of your faith, expressing your thoughts and your belief systems, the suppression of that, someone who just calls things as they are, and the reaction to it. And I think that speech was very, very important. And I saw in the comments, even under the video I posted on my community page, that video with JD Vance in Munich, how many people from different countries are hopeful that somehow this is the wind of change, because we all need that in all those fake governments that we have. So let me play the short clip from that speech.
We must do more than talk about democratic values, we must live them. Now, within living memory of many of you in this room, the Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War. They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, to invent, to build. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And we believe those things are certainly connected. And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. And in the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth,
I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation. Misinformation like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in China. Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth.
So a speech like no other, and I must admit, I was on a fence about J.D. Vance. I still have questions about him, but I am so grateful for this speech. And you know what? I think it takes courage. You need to have balls and courage to speak like this. And since there are two genders now, men and women, I'm glad that men are men. And we need men with balls to stand up and say how things are. And you know what? It doesn't matter what they think, because this is not time to be afraid. And finally, it's just literally putting it all out, describing country by country, case, maybe not case by case, but examples of cases, how things are. As far as his last comment, actually, we know that that was US government who was paying for the laboratories for that experience of that virus, but that's another story. I'm not going to go there now. We know. Now, I think this is a sign of being absolutely unapologetic about the change of the direction and finally putting an end to this Orwellian reality. I know we are still in it. I know they had a plan. I don't think it's going to succeed at all, because if those kind of talks are taking place right now, right here, 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks since Trump has been elected, sworn in as a president. I want to just tell you the story from my personal experience, as he was mentioning United States and the censorship in 2020 during the presidential election in the United States. As I started my YouTube channel in that time, I remember even saying the full name, Trump, was sometimes enough to get a warning from YouTube, to get a strike from YouTube. So what people were doing, they were using different names. They were saying Mr. T or some other form of being creative to talk about Trump without saying his last name. Isn't it crazy? Completely crazy, huh? But that's how we lived. And I think in some cases, people still live in this way, trying to avoid the censorship. I think we have enough of this already. So let me end this video with a comment of the day from my yesterday's video, guys. As far as men being men and women being a woman, I think this is a good comment to bring this and highlight. Maybe there is some love cooking here, as I was talking about St. Valentine's Day yesterday with my short clip at the end of the video. David Harriot left this message. So this is for you, David. Thanks, Anya K. Very informative and helpful. You are right about commercialism. This is about St. Valentine's Day being commercial, very commercial for me, regarding this day. I declared my continuing love for my other Anya, Polish girl, with a simple text. She is from Poznań, platonic, but love is love. Take care. And a Valentine's hug from Ireland. So I responded to David, and I responded to every man. Call, don't text. And I think this is the most important right now, because, you know, guys, life is short. If you really love someone, say it. Say it, show it, be it, leave it. That's how I think. With this being said, all the links will be, as always, attached down below in the description box. By the way, I wish you, David, a lot of success with Polish Anya. But, you know, be a man, take some action. Text is not enough. It's not enough. Make sure to check my Instagram, follow me there. If you want to support me, the best way is by PayPal, buy me a coffee, becoming the member of this channel. or Patreon, or joining me on Locals and becoming my supporter there. And that's all I have for you. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. Have a great weekend, everyone. I might see you tomorrow, not sure yet, but stay tuned just in case. Bye, everyone.